Hi, I'm Kate. Welcome to Blooms in the Yard. Today I'm going to share another Blooms Beyond My Yard video. This is more of the roots. So I did a video recently of their driveway garden and what I did there. I installed that in September. So the first time I went to the Roots house was back in March of this year, 2025. And at that time, they asked me to do several areas, and I installed those in April and May. When I went back in September, I was able to see how everything was doing. So I do have some video and photos of how everything I'm going to show you today is doing now. If you're new to this channel, I garden in Shawnee, Kansas in zone 6B, and I generally show what is happening in my garden, but this winter I'm sharing some projects that I did over the course of the last year in other people's gardens. So the Roots live in a really nice neighborhood, beautiful house. When I first pulled in, I was like, this actually looks pretty nicely landscaped. I'm not sure what I'm doing here. But they just had a couple of blank spots where things hadn't worked out or things had died. And so they really just wanted me to come in and give them some suggestions for those blank areas. The biggest change that they were going to make is that they had these 3 large river birch trees in their front yard, and they wanted to get rid of them and wanted suggestions for what to put in that area. Normally, I would never suggest anyone get rid of big trees because I love trees and I just think that they help a landscape to feel mature and just established and well-rounded. But this couple is a little bit older, and they said every time there was wind or a storm, they were having to pick up all the branches and they were just done with that. And so I totally understood that. So I knew that once they had those trees removed, it was just going to be full sun. And so they wanted some things that would bloom, which of course, that's usually what people want. And so I did decide to go with some just really reliable sun perennials in this area. Now it is on a bit of a slope, and I do love a good rock wall. And so I don't even remember if he mentioned it first or if I did, but I was like, this is the perfect spot for a little retaining wall to just add some levels and some interest. And they were totally on board with that. So they went ahead and had the trees removed by somebody else and had this retaining wall built. And I kind of told them where to do the retaining wall and that kind of thing. And so I was just able to come in and put the plants in. So I did just kind of draw out in the dirt with my foot where the retaining wall should go. And they were on top of it. Like 2 weeks later, the trees were gone and the retaining wall was up, and they're like, we're ready. So I decided in front of the retaining wall to put 5 Walker's Low Catmint. Everything that I chose for this area, I was going for super low maintenance and just looking good for as much of the year as possible. So I knew that these Walker's Low Catmint would rebloom, and I did tell them that. I said, if you're getting to the point where you don't like the way they look, cut them down, they'll come back. When I came back in September, she said, well, we never didn't like the way they looked. We were always happy with how they looked. So they never cut them back, which is fine. So, and they've filled in really nicely and look good here. At the top of the retaining wall, I knew I wanted something that would be really drought tolerant because, raised beds tend to not hold that moisture as well. So I did Husker Red Penstemon. The foliage will look really nice throughout the year, and then they get the blooms on that penstemon in May. Behind that penstemon, I put Autumn Joy Sedum, super reliable perennial for us in our area. And I'm going for things that bloom at different times. So I have the Walker's Low Catmint, which will bloom through summer. And then I have the Penstemon, which will bloom in spring. And then I have the Autumn Joy Sedum, which will bloom in the fall. And that sedum, I think it just looks spectacular all the time. The foliage is really nice, structural, nice, healthy green looking all year. So I really like sedum, even if it didn't have those blooms in the fall. I think I would still plant this. When the penstemon is blooming, it will be taller than the sedum. I did go ahead and put the penstemon in the front because for most of the year, if they cut these back, it's going to look more like a ground cover. It's got that interesting foliage and it will kind of grow up onto the rock wall a little bit. I think it will look pretty nice most of the year. So then I wanted to give them some sort of little focal point here, not spending a ton of money. So I chose a little trellis with a clematis on it. One of my favorite clematis in my yard. It's a really great performer. It's got stunning blooms, and they had it for cheap at Home Depot. $15 for this multi-blue clematis. For the back of this area, I did want to give them some evergreen. I didn't want this area to just be completely blank in the winter. So I gave them 3 sea green junipers, which perform really well for us. They're really easy to grow. You can kind of let them do their natural habit, which was what I prefer. It's sort of arching, a little bit of arching stems. Or you can prune them and have them be more neat. And so they're pretty versatile. They grow pretty quickly, and they're just a nice, reliable evergreen. Those sea green junipers, they do grow quickly. So I planted one about 3 years ago. It's already about 5 feet wide. These will really just fill in the back of this bed, and I think look really good. I was glad to see that when I went back in September, everything looked really nice. The autumn joy sedum was blooming. The Walker's Low Catmint had gotten to be a good size and was filling in really nicely. There are a couple spots where they still need to maybe reseed the grass, but overall looking really good. I do usually encourage people to just do a trench edge. I think it's the easiest. I find it to be easier to stop the grass from going into the beds than like if you have a brick or a stone edging. I just feel like the grass just gets in between those stones and underneath. And I mean, I have that in my yard, but I'm okay with doing that maintenance. I do think that the easiest maintenance is to trim it up with a trimmer and retrench it once a year. The next area that I did for them is this area right in front of their house. It's blank now, but they had 3 rhododendrons there. They didn't even say why they got rid of them. I didn't ask, but I know that they just don't do that great in our area. So it wasn't surprising to me at all. Actually, this year did another house with the exact same thing that had rhododendrons in front that had been removed. So it's not only the weather, it's also the fact that we don't have soil that is acidic enough. And I just think that having those 2 things going against it just makes them really difficult to grow here. Now, I do see every once in a while nice rhododendrons. If you don't want to do anything special, then I wouldn't mess with rhododendrons. If you just want something more reliable, choose something else. Okay, so in this blank area where they removed the rhododendrons, I suggested that they plant 3 Ruby Slippers Oakleaf Hydrangeas. If you've seen my latest November garden tour video, then you saw how gorgeous this looks with all of the red leaves in the fall. They do bloom with white blooms in the summer, and then those will fade to a pink later on. And they might go a little bit brown if they do get too dry. But I just think that even the dried flowers look nice on this plant. Really nice foliage. I love oak leaves because they have that interesting foliage as well as the seasons of bloom. The oak leaves also have such good fall color, so you really can't go wrong. Interesting bark as well. It's got it all. So I just planted 3 of the Ruby Slippers. They will get to be 3 feet tall and 4 or 5 feet wide. So that'll stay nice and low and won't cover the windows and just be a really nice foliage interest here all year long. A really good contrast to the boxwoods that are nearby with these larger oak leaves contrasting with those small boxwood leaves. When I stopped by here, I did not have time to pull the weeds, so I didn't think about that at a time. It was just a quick stop. And it looks like they could use some fresh trenching. When I installed this, I tried to do a trench and I did the best I could, but all of those river birch roots were still there. So as those start to decompose, then they can do a better job with the trenching. When you walk into their backyard, the first area that you see was just completely blank with an air conditioner. So not a welcoming entrance into the back garden. I instantly knew that I just wanted to put my tried and true Incrediball hydrangeas here because they look good for so much of the season. They're just a wonderful plant. Incrediball hydrangeas will fill this area in really nicely. They'll get to be around 5 feet wide. I put 3 of them in here for a ground cover in the meantime. Now it might be that eventually the Incrediball hydrangeas will crowd this ground cover out, but for now I wanted to have something, and so I put big root geranium, which is another really reliable perennial for me here. You can't put it in full sun, but you can do part sun or shade. It will bloom with purple blooms in May, but you're really growing it more for the interesting foliage throughout the year. It's even semi-evergreen in winter. I did want to put an evergreen in here. I try to include evergreens even if people don't ask for them because they might not know that they need them, but I did put one yew in here because that is our best shade evergreen other than boxwoods, but they had a decent amount of boxwoods here. And I like the dark green foliage on the yew, and the needle-like leaves are a good contrast for the Incrediball hydrangeas. So I did do that sort of next to the AC unit. It won't cover up from when you come in the gate, but it will cover up from the backyard, the air conditioner. And so that is that area. Pretty simple. This is on the southeast corner of their house. So it gets some shade from the house, and then just on the other side of the sidewalk is a large crabapple. So it's getting a decent amount of shade in this area. The last space that they wanted me to look at was this raised bed, which in the past they have grown tomatoes here, and they had it irrigated, and they did have like a little rabbit cover to keep the rabbits from getting into their vegetables. They basically said they didn't want to mess with tomatoes this year and just what could they do with it. And she mentioned that she might like to have some cut flowers. So I decided I would just kind of treat the whole thing like one big huge container, like one big massive floral container that she could enjoy all year. And so I put the tallest things in the middle and just got shorter as we worked our way out, and I just chose things that I knew would be really easy to grow. So I did zinnias and dahlias, and I did choose shorter varieties, mainly because the taller varieties are going to need to be staked. And I just know what a pain that is for me who's into gardening and out in my garden constantly, and they are not looking for high maintenance. So I did choose lower varieties of zinnias and dahlias. In the middle, I put one big salvia. It might have been plain the blues or something like that. And I knew that it would get big, that you would just need one. And then a few other things that I just knew would be really reliable: vinca and begonia. There's a couple of smaller trees close to here, so I just wasn't 100% sure if this would be enough full day sun. So the begonias were sort of like a backup plan. Like if the full sun stuff didn't do really well, then I knew that the begonias would. When I came back in September, you couldn't really see the begonias, so it definitely ended up being more sun, and all of the sun stuff was really happy. And then I also put coleus in there for some interesting foliage, and I knew that it would probably do just fine whether it was getting lots of sun or lots of shade. And so everything did really well, as you can see from these pictures. There was a lot of just wonderful flowers for her to enjoy, and she could cut them if she wanted to and put them in a vase, or just have this huge abundant container / raised bed of all these flowers all season. So it was really fun to get to go back in September and see how everything was doing. The Oakleaf Hydrangeas had filled in really nicely. The sun perennials in the front were all doing really well. And the most exciting part, of course, was seeing all of these annuals in this big raised bed. So that was really fun. The one area, and I'm not worried at all, was just those Incrediball Hydrangeas. I think 2 of them looked really good, 1 of them not so much, but I know this plant and I know that, give it 3 years and it will fill in and look wonderful. So not worried about that at all, but everything else just looked amazing. I was really happy with how well it did, just having planted things in April and May and seeing how they're doing just 3 or 4 months later. I did feel like it was important for me to mention that why did I go and plant things in April and May? Because some things are better to plant in April and some things are better to plant in May. I first looked at the house in March, came back in April and planted the perennials and the shrubs. It was too early at that point to plant the annuals, the zinnias, and those kinds of things in the raised bed. So I waited until after Mother's Day. I would not have wanted to wait on the shrubs and perennials until May. And I think that that's a big mistake that a lot of people make, especially in our area. The date people always throw around is Mother's Day, so like around May 10th. And that's a good date for tomatoes and your annuals, tropicals, that kind of stuff. But for perennials and shrubs, you're going to want to be getting those into the ground as early as March, into April. And I just feel like May is getting really late because you want them to get a little bit established before they have to deal with the heat. So the ideal time is definitely going to be like early April. I definitely prefer to plant in spring or fall. It's certainly possible to plant in May. It's certainly possible to plant even in the summer, but you're just going to have to really watch those plants and make sure that they have plenty of water and they're going to struggle a little bit more that first year. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I have more videos coming out like this very soon. Since I did the last video, I had someone contact me and was able to do a design for her. She lives just down the street from me. If you are interested in more design ideas for your garden, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned as I have several more videos similar to this coming out this winter. As I'm recording this, it's snowing outside, so perfect time to be working on designing and planning, and not necessarily the perfect time to be out in the garden right now.